Mark Sexton with that story. It was a gift to the South Australian government from the Mortlock family, and it is an important piece of the state's colonial history. But the future of Martindale Hall in the Clare Valley is in doubt, as the current leaseholders have been given their marching orders and the government hasn't revealed its plans for the Grand Mansion. Leah McLennan reports on the state of the state's heritage.
I've loved it, and I still do. I'll still remain when it's open, I'll still come back to see the hall. It has been a great 14 and a half years.
Tracy Wachter has effectively been Martindale Hall's housekeeper for the last decade and a half. As the manor's leaseholder, she runs it as a museum and a bed and breakfast.
It's a living museum, it's kept alive. As you can see, the hall is just magnificent still today, being 135 years old. Sarah Bowman, who was 21, built Martindale Hall for his fiancée, and they copied from Domain House in the Lakes District in England.
Despite building such a grand home, the original owner was unsuccessful in luring his fiancée from England. While she never made an appearance, the grand home was used as the setting for a group of young women who made a disappearance in the classic 1975 movie Picnic at Hanging Rock.
What we see and what we seem are but a dream within a dream.
For most of its life, Martindale Hall was owned by the Mortlock family. When J.T. Mortlock died in 1950 without an heir, the hall was bequested to the South Australian government.
Hello everyone, welcome to Martindale Hall.
It's been open to the public ever since, but now its future is in doubt. Despite applying for a new lease on the building, Tracy Wachter was unsuccessful.
The future for me, I'm leaving on the 30th of November, and I'm unsure what is going to happen. The advice is the government are going to head in a different direction.
The Conservation Minister Ian Hunter declined to be interviewed, but his department told 7:30 South Australia there was an expression of interest process for Martindale Hall which is now closed. The department is now considering future options for the hall, but a decision is yet to be made. In a Budget and Finance Committee hearing last week, the acting CEO of the Environment Department confirmed that budget cuts have hit its heritage area. He told the hearing the department has streamlined the administration of the Heritage Register and has reduced the scope of the advice it provides. He also said 4 full-time positions have been lost. 7:30 South Australia asked the government how many positions remain. The government has not responded to those questions.
Well, obviously everyone knows Martindale Hall. It's one of those iconic places, and I think people would be horrified to think that it's no longer going to be available for the public to access, and also that it's an opportunity that's going begging.
Darren Peacock from the National Trust says he's concerned the government plans to sell Martindale Hall into private hands. It's not the only state government-owned heritage building that he's worried about.
Save our fort! Save our fort!
Since it's no longer used by the police academy, the state government has plans to sell Fort Largs to a private developer.
We're concerned about the way in which these assets seem to be seen as something to offload rather than something to use. We think the government seems to see heritage as a problem rather than as an opportunity.
Also on his list of the state's historic gems to go under the hammer is the old Z ward, which housed the criminally insane at the old Glenside Hospital. It was recently sold to a private company. Darren Peacock says the government has failed to engage with the community on those decisions.
I think what we're finding is that there's a lot of secrecy around these decisions. The Fort Largs is a good case in point. It was announced 6 months ago that the government was planning to sell the site, but since then we haven't been able to get much more information about those plans, and there's been no process to consult the community around that.
In Victoria, Fort Nepean is a major tourism drawcard. The National Trust argues the same could be done at Fort Largs, but when it comes to tourism, heritage isn't in the government's sights.
Look, we're a little surprised that heritage doesn't seem to get a mention in the government's tourism strategy. The one that recently came out is all about food and wine. And that's great, but Western Australia and Victoria have had heritage tourism strategies which really address the opportunities. We haven't done that here.
The future of Martindale Hall is still unclear. The current leaseholder hopes it will continue to be open to the public, even if she's no longer the housekeeper.
It's just a wonderful little treasure. We have, particularly in the Clare Valley and the town of Mintero, which is a historical town in itself. So Martindale Hall being a historical mansion, it's just, we're very, very lucky to have it. It's a beautiful, beautiful home, and it's just a treasure, and everyone that comes through loves it.
It is beautiful. Leah McLennan with that story. And late this afternoon, the government responded to 7:30 SA's request, saying there are 10.5 full-time staff who support heritage management in the Environment Department. Now, this